Why, hello there. Are you looking for someone? Huh. Someone named Darien. And you say I look just like him? I even sound just like him? Interesting. My name is Darren. Close, but no marijuana joint. You were hoping for Darien. Maybe it's for the best. Maybe I'm cooler than Darien. Maybe I've even been laid a couple of times. You know what? It's okay. I can be whoever you want me to be. Oh? You were hoping for a Silent Hill 2 remake review? Well, it just so happens that I recently played through that game. A few times, actually. So how about I give you my review? Sit back and enjoy it while waiting for your Darien to eventually return. Bloober, the same developer who made those god-awful Layers of Fear games and that Borefest Blair Witch game, went ahead and decided to try proving their talents by faithfully remaking Silent Hill 2, considered by many to be the greatest survival horror game of all time. This This was a daunting task for them, okay? There was a lot of homework for them to go over, a lot of studying the ins and outs of the game, understanding the lore, psychological themes, and how the atmosphere ties all around it. Truth be told, I was very skeptical. Understandably so. Silent Hill 2 has always been something of a work of art. For those of you who don't know, it's about a man named James Sunderland who receives a letter from his wife telling him to reunite with her in Silent Hill. The weird thing is, she's been dead for 3 years. Nothing is as it seems in Silent Hill 2, and this is not just in regards to James, but for all the characters. He finds a woman named Maria, who shares a striking resemblance to his wife Mary. Almost like a twin who went down a different path in life and ended up becoming a pole dancer. Angela, a young woman and abuse victim looking for her mother. Then you have Eddie, a deeply troubled guy who claims to have been bullied and picked on his whole life. And perhaps the most reserved individual of them all, a little girl named Laura. I don't want to get any deeper into the narrative past those points, nor do I want to make it my goal here to write an essay or a thesis about what I think it all means. That'd be spoiling it for those who haven't experienced this incredible game for themselves, be it the original or the remake. No, I am here to give my opinion on whether or not Bloober did a great job at recreating the essence of Silent Hill 2, and for the most part, they actually did. I say for the most part because there are a few cutscenes here and there that don't quite capture the tone. Tone is a very tough thing to master, especially if it is trying to be eerie and subtle at the same time. Now, I understand that trying to either recapture someone else's masterpiece or evolving the vision of their work is an almost impossibly hard feat. Sometimes you should leave it be. Other times, maybe you can challenge yourself into doing better. In the instance of the remake, these scene recreations are a bit hit or miss. For examples, they not only did Laura and Eddie justice, but in my opinion, these characters are better than before. Now, for Maria and Angela, not so much. Sometimes there's too much lighting and no shadows. Sometimes the cinematography or camera angles are unnecessarily altered, as well as the wrong character posture. This all affects the tone of these scenes, and when you mess these up, it can feel like longtime fans are being deprived of that same unnerving, sort of surrealist feel the original delivered. Sometimes the messages or vibe feel lost in translation, or maybe watered down is an easier, more simpler way to put it. And although the general voice acting is improved upon and acted more professionally, I'm not sure that certain inflections match their moods and the situations that these unusual characters are in. However, just about everything else in this remake, Bloober absolutely nailed, and in a lot of ways eclipsed the original. The level of detail in this game is absolutely staggering, and nothing short of very impressive work. They remember just about every little thing about the original. All the different distinct areas are not only showcased but expanded upon. The foggy town looks just as creepy and unsettling as it's ever been. A new collectible include these glimpses, which are basically Easter egg references to some notable spots or interactions with the environment in the original. They even have that really awkward elevator trivia again. And my god, the whole thing with the Angela and her abusive dad is right on the dot, and goes so far as to put you in her shoes, getting chased by him throughout what looks like their house and defending yourself against him. And, is that supposed to be her dad? That's terrifying. Hey, wait a second, is that Freddie Mercury? They were also able to bring back the original composer, Akira Yamaoka, to do the music. And although I think I prefer the original game's composition a bit more, the soundtrack in the remake is still amazing, and just about every song or ambient track you remember is in here as well, and during the same spots too. But the mapping system, now that is pure perfection here. It does a great job of telling you where you've been and where else you may need to go. It marks blocked off doors, doors that require keys, or puzzles that need solving that James sometimes jots down for reference. It is a brilliant passive mechanic. The audio design is perhaps the game's greatest accomplishment though, and is among the best in the gaming business. It never fails in the way of adding tension and dread around each corner. I love how each type of monster feels even more dynamic and behavioral than before. The mannequins are especially ambushers who hide and wait for you to walk by to try to get to you. And just the presence of them in sight causes your flashlight to flicker. Every one of these aspects in the gameplay, visual, and sound department have never been better, not just in Silent Hill 2, but perhaps in all of the franchise. It is the best Silent Hill game to date as far as gameplay and replayability is concerned. The remake not only contains all 6 of the original endings perfectly intact, including the silly dog and UFO endings, but also includes 2 new endings to find as well. Oh my god, the UFO ending is even funnier in the remake. Instead of James getting abducted by Harry from Silent Hill 1, remake James gets abducted by original James. This face, it's hilarious. Unlike Homecoming, the combat actually has a fully functional dodge mechanic, and it really works well against all the different monster types and their different attacks. Almost all enemy attacks give out an audio cue prior, so it's easier to know when to utilize it. I do notice how it does give you invincibility frames though, which is kind of a shame as it not only trivializes some encounters, but also alleviates that sense of danger. But I suppose it's not too important to be realistic. After all, these monsters are just manifestations of James's psyche. There's nothing really particularly amazing about the gunplay. It functions about as well as any other good survival horror game does with firearms. I did love how spaced out the acquisition of each firearm is in the game, from getting a handgun a couple hours into it, a shotgun roughly at the halfway point, and the rifle in the prison similar to how they were set up in the original. I did find myself just using my melee weapons most of the time, and saving my ammo for tougher enemies like bosses. On New Game Plus, I didn't even use a firearm at all. I just ran around with the overpowered chainsaw like a maniac. Yeah! Nothing can stop me now! I'd be lying through my teeth, though, if I said that the game is free of jank and bugs. It's not. Most of the time, it's not a huge deal. Like, if you get stuck on the corner of a staircase, you can free yourself by just using a dodge. But there was one instance where a bitch nurse got me stuck on top of a generator, and I just couldn't get unstuck. I had to load my previous autosave. Thankfully, these aren't really big issues considering how generous the autosave system frequently saves. I also swore there was something wrong with the rotating cube puzzle in the labyrinth the last time I played through it. Like it wouldn't open the passage to the next area, and I had to reload a few times for it to fix itself. Not sure what the hell that was all about. Hopefully, all these technical issues get patched fairly soon if they haven't already. I also hear the game runs worse on PC than it does on PS5 where I played it. If so, let's hope all these problems get squared away before Bloober decides to suddenly make another game. Please don't be like the others, Bloober. Don't! This being a survival horror, of course, half of the game revolves around puzzles and figuring out where to go next, or combining items and backtracking to where you used them on. So it's always important that the puzzles they want us to solve are enticing. One of the things that sucked about the Alone in the Dark remake from earlier this year is how a lot of the puzzles felt like they were lacking in variety or imagination. Silent Hill puzzles usually always outshine that of their contemporaries, and the ones in this one are no exception. I'm happy Bloober didn't mess this part up either. Like the original game, the remake also contains difficulty sliders for both the combat and the puzzles, which is great, but I'm giving out special points towards the extensive amount of accessibility tools Bloober has given us. These include colorblind mode, a radio emitter notification for the hard of hearing, and aim assist. I didn't use any of these, mind you. On the contrary, I turned off all the hints, tutorials, aim assist, and all the HUD with the exception of the health indicator and a tiny red dot for a reticule. I did this because I wanted to immerse myself completely with no outside interruptions or prompts trying to help me through the game, and I'm so glad I did. I actually never turned any of that stuff on in subsequent playthroughs. I played it the exact same way, from the moment I started to the moment I got that ever so proud platinum trophy in 31 hours across 3 separate runs. I don't even want to imagine what it's like with all those added HUD indicators. I'm afraid it'll make me enjoy the game significantly less. In any case, if you want to get a true survival horror experience out of this, I suggest removing all those HUD options, hints, tutorials, big aim reticules and the like. Turn off all the lights in your room, and if you have a good pair of headphones, oh, you know, it's the right way to play any survival horror game that's remotely as horrifying as this one. In closing remarks, how does this game fare with its original in all of these things? To keep it short and simple, it plays better than before at least. The gameplay in general is modernized to deliver a more fun, more enjoyable experience, and more accessible to broader audiences. The combat and especially the design of the boss fights are much improved, especially Eddie, who is more intense and less awkward. I actually don't think there's one boss in the remake that is worse than its original counterpart. The music is maintained well enough, as is the story and dialogue. The sound design and visuals are obviously better. I mean, this is 23 years later. Now, I don't think the remake is as powerful as the original as far as atmosphere and tone goes. Maybe it's just because of the fixed camera and the lack of combat mobility and those limitations of the PS2 days, perhaps still makes the original a more thrilling and suspenseful experience. That's not to say that the remake isn't also terrifying. It is. Pyramid Head is as pure nightmare feel as ever. And as for the treatment of the characters, I think it's a bit 50-50. I like Laura and Eddie more in the remake, but I think I like Angela, or at least Maria, more in the original. James is still. Ugh. James, I guess.
What the hell are you doing?
Games that are this essential, you have to take the good with that little bit of the bad. For those die-hard fans of the original, I hope this review has set your minds at ease for the remake. You should not pass this game up just because it's made by a different team, or that the artistic authenticity is lost a bit, or if early build faces of a couple characters look stupid. You better believe I too was one of those people bashing Angela's face and how she looked like David Duchovny. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a funny comparison, but they have since updated her face a bit. I, for one, feel a bit ashamed now because I do like Angela in the remake. This developer has achieved what I thought impossible of them. They took the best survival horror game and made their own version of it piece by piece with such detail, passion, and respect for it. And on top of all those added quality of life improvements, they expanded it to about twice as long and even added some new things here and there. It's a bit ironic given how Capcom sometimes fumble and cut corners for remakes of their own games. Silent Hill 2 has not only brought the series back to life, it's probably the best Silent Hill has ever been since, well, Silent Hill 2, and is by far Bloober's best work yet. And there you have it. There was my in-depth review of Silent Hill 2 Remake. I hope you enjoyed it. What? You were hoping for a final score? Is that all people care about these days? Review scores and not the reviews themselves? Oh, well, that is a shame. But I suppose if I were to throw out a number from 1 to 10, Silent Hill 2 would get a 9 out of 10. There. Are you happy now? Well, guys, I hope you do find your Darien, wherever he may be. Hopefully he's still alive. Hopefully no one kidnapped him and stole his identity.